Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the latest HR on the Offensive podcast. It's me, Chris Howard from Lace Partners. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Today is a reflections podcast. I have our two co-founders, Alburey and Cathy Acratopulo, joining me to talk about Lace Partners 10 years in the making. So at the time of us releasing this podcast, we celebrate 10 years as an entity, as an organization. So I wanted to get Aaron and Cathy on to have a little chat and do some reflections. And we were just doing a little bit of a pre-prep for this. And I've read some of the questions that I'm going to post to them. And so at some stages, it's probably going to feel, listener, as if I'm giving them a PDR. So it's not my intention, because I'll probably get in trouble if it gets too much like that. But Aaron, how are you doing? You all right?
Very well, Chris. Excited. 10 years. 10 years.
I know. 10 years. And Cathy, how are you doing? You good?
I'm good, thank you, Chris, very much so. And it will feel like you're giving us a performance review. So make the most of it, Mr. Howard. That's all I'm saying.
I am going to thoroughly enjoy this podcast. Right. But the rules of engagement on this podcast, as we know, is that we need to drop a fundamentally different question. And I wanted to turn this one into a 10-year reflection sort of theme. So I'm going to start ladies first with you, Cathy. If there was one thing, anything, either in your life, in work, anything that you could change or you could have changed if you could wave a magic wand over the last 10 years, what would it have been? Don't say hiring you, Chris, because...
Well, clearly, 5 years ago, we made a big decision. No, I'm not going to say that, Chris. Mine's going to make me sound really superficial, because I have two, because, you know, we get about 3 seconds notice as to think about these questions, and you said keep it light. So I'm going to say, what if in the last 10 years, I'd never cut my hair? How long would it be? I've got quite short hair for anyone who knows me, and I'd love to have long flowing hair, and I think, what would it be like if I'd never cut my hair? Would I be able to sit on my hair right now, Chris, as we're talking?
I quite like the idea of that. You being like, what's the character in the Addams Family? The cousin It.
Cousin It.
Yeah, cousin It. Was just your hair coming down?
Yeah, so that's one. The other one was, what if in the last 10 years I'd got up and done 100 sit-ups every day? What impact would that have had? Anyway, there you go. 2 very superficial what if question answers.
I love it. Aaron?
Oh, such a hard thing. A thing I'd change in my life. First, I think would been, what happens if I just learned to sleep? Rather than waiting till lockdown to learn how to sleep, if I'd actually learned 10 years ago how to sleep.
What we could have achieved, Alburey.
Think what we could have achieved if I wasn't running on 3 hours a night. Amazing. So that's probably one. And then the other one, I think, is also quite lockdown related, which is yesterday I was on a train and I bumped into someone who I've worked with before, and we exchanged haircut photos from lockdown. He shaved his head and I have a top knot. So I wish I'd never taken that photo. That would be...
I love that. A haircut route, Aaron. We're so aligned.
I love it. All right, so let's walk back into time. I want to talk about the first year. You guys set up the business. Let's talk a little bit. I'm going to start with you, Aaron. Obviously, the genesis of it. Can you talk through for our listeners, maybe people who don't know as much about that first year? Can you give me some reflections or so, and then Cathy, I'll get your views on that first year. Some of the challenges or your approach. Why did you decide to set up the business? All of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting is that when you're in the moment, it's all so clear. I think 10 years on, you start to rewrite some of it in your head. So bear with me, listeners, as we go through this. I think you'll have heard some of us talk about this before. We were born from a position of Accenture and Deloitte, which is where I'd worked, and Cathy and I had met at Accenture, and this was our passion. We loved doing HR stuff, and I think it was born out of a frustration of trying to do things in a different way in an organizational model that wouldn't allow it. And therefore, the kind of genesis was, well, if you're going to do it, you have to do it differently, right? And you have to go and start. So that was the genesis. And I had a client in the north of England. I was living in London, which meant I had a lot of time on a train. And so I filled a notebook full of thoughts around what worked and what didn't work. And then by the end of that, basically decided to resign from Deloitte in a fit of pique and say, I'm going to try it myself. What's the worst can happen? And called some friends, and Cathy answered the phone, thank goodness, at that point, because we were doing a very difficult and different first year, I think, had she not picked up the phone. But I think, it was it was an interesting one because I think we knew what we wanted to do right from day one. And I actually found the old notebooks because the kind of the 10th anniversary is coming up from 2014, the year that we sort of did the thinking and then got up and running. And so much of it is the same. So much of it is held true through that piece, that focus on HR, the focus on the CPO, the desire to build something different around how we ran a consultancy, expertise led and what that actually meant. And it's all in those notes and scribbles, including things like the logo and the values and our fundamentally different strapline. So it's amazing how much of that has held true all the way through. I think Cathy will have a different perspective because I also do remember in year one how many times I tried to do just absolutely mad things that were kind of related to HR, which were never going to be successful. And Cathy could see that before I could. So I think there were different lenses. Only in the first year. I think it took about 3 years for you to break that habit, maybe 5 to break that habit for me. So.
Cathy.
I mean, I remember that phone call very, very well. I moved house quite recently. My eldest son, or my eldest child, my son had started at senior school. My daughter was finishing at junior school. And it was the right time for me to come back into the workplace. I'd taken a few years out with the family. So it was very well timed as a call. And I also remember that notebook because I remember thinking, Aaron's thought about this a lot. He's even got a logo and he knows what colour he wants it to be. And he's got a company name and he's thinking about the values and he's sort of done all the sort of exciting bits, right, of the sort of what would we look like and be and so on. But absolutely, I think it's, the reason why I think it's held true for so long and why we are fundamentally different is that ultimately it was about focus, and it was focusing on one major audience group as a set of clients and helping those HR leaders as our primary audience achieve all their transformation goals. And it's what we love doing in the big firms we've worked in. It's what makes you jump out of bed in the morning and want to go to work and do great stuff with clients. And because of that passion, I think, and that genuine care for what our clients were trying to achieve and sort of aligned values and how to do that, that's why it's stood the test of time, I guess, over that 10 years. And I think it's been a key part of why we've been successful, right, as a business because of that focus. So, yeah, there's been lots of new ideas and new thoughts of what we could do. And some of them are brilliant and we've done them, and some of them may have deviated our path, right? And so we haven't done them for good reasons, right? But I think that's how we work together, right, in terms of our balance as co-founders of the business and why it's worked really well.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting, actually. And it kind of leads me to the next question I was going to actually ask. So maybe I'll start with you, Cathy, and then go back to Aaron, which is around classic PDR stuff. Have you met or exceeded the expectations? But blended into that, can you maybe just reflect on if you could get into that time machine and go back 10 years and talk to yourself and say, in 10 years, this is the business that you're going to be running. What would Cathy of 10 years ago have said to Cathy, or what would Cathy of now have said to Cathy of 10 years ago? And what would be the response?
Well, I think if I 10 years ago could look ahead and see what Lace would be in 10 years, I'd be absolutely over the moon, because by the end of this year, we'll have 100 employees. We have some amazing associates we work with on a regular basis. On top of that, we have incredible clients, brilliant logos, brilliant brands that we work with, and have done so many amazing engagements with our clients. And we've also built really, really strong relationships with our clients and our associates and our suppliers and the vendors and the service providers that we work with, our partners. So I think I'd be incredibly proud if I was, able to see it in the future, and hugely excited about getting on that journey to make it happen. These things never operate on a single track road, right? There's always sort of bends along the way. But I think to have got where we've got and to have continued that focus, stay true to our values and what we really are passionate about doing with clients, and to know you did that over a 10-year period I'd be super proud and very excited.
Yeah, lovely. Aaron, when you were scribbling down your logos in your little notebook, did you think, this is the business that I want to craft in 10 years' time with Cathy? Was that in your head, or was it almost like, I just want to get through the first year and make sure that I can make a go of this? And how far ahead were you thinking, I guess?
I think Cathy would say, and a lot of you know, I'm a bit of a magpie on these things, so I'm very optimistic. I don't think I was thinking 10 years. I think I was thinking 3, Chris. I think I was thinking, I have this done in 3.
We definitely had a 3 to 5 year horizon, right?
3 to 5 year horizon. I'll be on a beach in 4. That's where I was going. But no, so I think, it's we had a lot of thought in it, and I think we knew what we wanted. And so much of that has come through. And I think you're talking about met and exceeded and what I tell myself. I think a couple of things. One, I definitely think in a lot of ways we exceeded what we wanted to set out to do. And when I reflect on it, the thing that I think always strikes me is it's not in those notebooks, right? It's the impact we've had on the lives of the people who've worked with us. That's probably the thing that I never thought about when I wrote those notebooks, when we debated it with Cathy in the coffee shops and we were trying to work out what to do. Was, when you see the people we've brought on as new talent grow in the organization, the skills they've brought, the families they're building around their new careers and so on. It's just that bit is the bit that I think we've really exceeded on, that I never thought we would do and didn't have any real concept of when we entered into this. So that's certainly one thing. I think if I go back and tell myself anything, I'd say, because I think, when you see where we are now, and Cathy's described perfectly, that sort of where we are now is exactly where we want to be at 10 years. It's a great organization, but that makes it feel like it's a straight line in some ways. And I think if you're looking out and in, it feels like a straight line, right? From notebook to the 100 employees. And it was far from a straight line, right? As any person who ever runs a business will tell you, there are highs and lows. And so I think my advice to myself was stick with it. Hold to your values, hold to that focus, you'll make it, because there are tricky times, right? And we may come on to discuss those a little bit later, but that would probably be my little coach note to myself.
I love it. Cathy, you were sort of nodding quite a lot there. Do you want to build on any of what Aaron said at all? Or?
Well, look, at the end of the day, we're a people business, right? We only exist because of the team we've got and the clients we work with. And when you come into the Lace office now, like yesterday was a really busy day in the office. One of our team was leaving, and so lots of people come in to wish them well with the next phase of their career. We had a charity event at lunchtime, bake sale for one of our charities. We had clients in one office. We had a vendor in another office talking to us about what they're doing with their tech product. And the office was full and it was buzzing, right? And it's a big office, right? And it's, it was full and buzzing. And it's moments like that then that it is the buzz of the people and the knowledge that we've given, hopefully, people great opportunities to focus on what they love doing, working with clients or working in a business like Lace and supporting our client-facing teams. And we've given people opportunity to build those skills, to grow, to develop, and focus on doing what they love doing, right? And hopefully in an environment that feels supportive and positive and has a lot of fun along the way, right? Our 3 values, passion, innovation, and care, come on to them, I'm sure, as to how we've hopefully stay true to those, but that unspoken one around fun. Everyone who joins us, and certainly clients who work with us, are very clear that the way we are as people in Lace is a differentiator, and as well as the work we do and the professionalism we bring and the expertise we offer and the way in which we help clients along their transformation journey. So I think that's something we should be super proud of, and it's moments like that when you come into a busy office and just see how many different conversations are happening, different areas of focus are happening, the nature of the day that people are going through in at work, that it sort of brings it home. It's sort of pinch yourself moments, I think, like that if we were looking back 10 years and able to see something like that, it would be a definite pinch yourself moment.
Yeah. Love it. So I want to ask you both, actually. I'll start with you, Aaron, on this one, because Cathy just mentioned about those values, passion, innovation, care. Was that in your notebook, passion, innovation, care? Did that build over time? And the second question linked to that is, how can you maintain company values over a period of time like that, particularly when you've got growing businesses? It's a real challenge, right? Or do you think it's actually quite easy?
It's really interesting because I think, just looking back at the notebook, actually, I think they are in there. There's having the values, and then there's the articulation of what they mean, and then there's the realization of the behaviors, right? And I think as you go and grow, there are milestones where you have to reset some of those things. I think we always knew that those 3 things encapsulated for us the meaning of what we wanted to create. You always have that debate, should integrity be in there? But quite frankly, if you're not dealing with integrity as a business, in this kind of business, then you're missing something. So why state it? It's just a given. So passion, innovation, and care And then I think as we grew, there were Cathy, I'm sure will have some thoughts on this. There were stages where the 10 people in the organization looked on at the 20 coming in and went, there's no way this culture is going to stay the same. And then the 30 looked at the 50 coming in and were like, there's no way that's going to stay the same. Right. And so each one felt that there was a shift in some way, but I don't think overall we've moved away from those values. And I think a lot of that is to do with the articulation of what it means. And we don't just articulate what it means to employees, but what it means to our clients. What does it mean to the people we work with? Cathy talked there about, the way we operate and work with people. That's very much down to care. For us, the articulation of care is also about how we genuinely engage with people we work with in a way that we think about not just the project we're doing, but what does it do for them in their career? What does it do for them as a person and an individual? And I think that shines through. And I think it's one of the reasons why hopefully our clients see us as a great partner for them.
Lovely. Cathy?
Yeah, I absolutely think they were in your notebook, Aaron. But we did go through a sort of consultation exercise with the team, yes, right, where we sort of co-created the values together, certainly the main themes and then the behaviours that went with them to bring them to life. And I think that's the thing, right? It's all very well having posters on the wall saying passion, innovation and care, but it's the behaviours that make them true. And I think, that challenge around staying true to the values is also about the people you bring into Lace. And, whilst Aaron and I are co-founders, we have an amazing team of people with us and our leaders of Lace who, we've brought into Lace because they align with those values and believe in those behaviours and believe in what we're doing with our clients. So I think there is an element there of consistency of mindset, I guess, of individuals that we bring in that help to keep those behaviours and true across the business. So I think the other thing is that we evolve, right? What we don't want to necessarily have is sort of things change, a huge pivot in this, right? Cultures evolve. It never stays completely the same. And that is a good thing, right? Because as we get bigger, as we get more people, as we have a broader range of people joining us from different backgrounds, different locations, different ethos, different cultural environments that they're coming from, they bring different perspectives. And I guess the point here is if you're an inclusive business, you embrace that. And so things will evolve over time. But if we can all align to some common standards around how we operate and some expectations around behaviours and bring people in who are aligned with that themselves and also hold ourselves to account against those behaviours over time, then that's where you get the consistency without it being a big pivot one way or the other, right, as you grow. But, we don't always get it right. I think that's the other thing, right? We absolutely need to acknowledge our mistakes, and we absolutely have made many along the way, right? This is, as Aaron says, it's not a straight line path. But I think also that the key that hopefully we have is an open business where people can express their views and let us know how they're feeling. In Lace alone, we're full of HR consultants, right? So we major on the people stuff. And if we don't get it quite right, we certainly hear about it. Okay. So I think there's this last few months, right, we're going through a period of where we're trying to improve how we listen for exactly those reasons. And it's such an important part of making sure that we continue to listen and understand how people feel, especially as we get bigger, so that we can act and we can modify things and that people feel that we are operating in line with our values.
And it's about practicing what you preach, isn't it? I mean, we're obviously talking to our clients about things like you just mentioned, like listening. We've done a podcast where we talked to Simon Smith from Aston Martin. He talked about the value of employee listening, the CPO of Aston Martin, and we wouldn't be doing our jobs as HR consultants if we're not practicing what we preach. Linked to that, let's talk about individual projects. Now, we don't want to name specific clients, but Aaron, can you think of a project that you're particularly proud of over the last 10 years that you just think, we did this, it worked really well. I came out of it thinking, I'm really, really proud of that.
It's interesting because I know we've been preparing some stuff for the 10-year celebration and been talking a little bit about this with some of the team who are drawing it together, what it was like. And there are two that stick in my mind, but there are so many, right? I mean, you could take our first international client where we were overseas and operating. I'm like, how the hell we did that when we had no infrastructure? We were still at a coffee shop at the time, right? Trying to buy tickets online. I've got no idea what we did. But I think there are two for me. One was our first ever project. large bank. And the reason why is because I still think of it as the template for what we're trying to do with every other client. Because in so many ways, we were not constrained by knowing that we didn't have anything. So we just tried to do everything we could as if we were just and know where we were before. And that allowed us to actually do a lot of things, from everything from business case to process to advisory to working with partners to working with SIs. It was all the aspects of what we do now for our clients. We kind of achieved there. The other one that comes to mind for achievement was a client where we would just dropped in at the last minute to help them turn something around. And by then, I think we'd really honed our ability to give challenging advice, but also to bring to bear that value and that was all hands on deck, move at pace. But to get it to go, we had to do things like help them negotiate with third parties, which would normally take 2 to 3 months. And we did it in 4 to 6 weeks, right? And that helped and all those kind of stuff. And then we were able to manage the expectations around change because we knew that what we put live at pace was not going to really be excellent, but it was enough to get them through the problem they had. And so there was just a load of stuff that we were able to pull on and bring all the aspects of our business together. And it just felt that at that point, at least for me on that program, I saw the excellence across all the things we offer coming together for that client. So that was what made me really proud about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's lovely. Kathy, you got one?
I have multiple, and like Aaron, it's like asking us to choose our favourite child, Chris. It's very, very unfair. I guess I would pick on the projects that for me have demonstrated that relationship that we build with our clients. And so there's a number of instances where we have been supporting an HR leader and their team over a number of years on a very wide range of projects. And I guess that demonstrates a number of things. One is that we're in there for the long term, right? So we can help clients through really long, tough, quite wide-ranging transformations, and pretty much most of their transformation to-do list we can help with, right? So there's lots of examples with clients where we have started with one small project, maybe it's people strategy, maybe it's some employee experience design or whatever it is, but that's led on, not always continuously, but over a period of years where you're then keeping that relationship strong because they like working with us, they like our advice, we love working with them, we understand their business and we understand their people challenges. And so then it gets us into a broader conversation around, okay, what does that mean for your broader operating model? And what does it mean for your HR systems? Or actually, you've heard you talk about how you're finding it really difficult with your international payroll challenges at the moment. We can help, right? So there's numerous examples of where we start with a client, a brand new client, get to know them, get to know their business, and then are able to help them in so many ways and build that really strong, trusted relationship such that they absolutely get that we understand it. We really do appreciate their perspective. We know their business and we really genuinely want to help. And then we can be really flexible about how we help, right? So there's lots of instances on those projects where we've been able to flex our team, change our timing, be there when they need us, not when they don't, sort of like those sort of abilities to be flexible and agile with a client that enables us to build those long-term relationships and help over multiple years. So I'd be really interested to see the stats, actually, Aaron, if we look back at our clients and how long our engagements have been and how many types of engagements and projects we've really helped with. I think that's a sign of that trusted relationship and holds true to our ethos of being there for anything that the CPO or HR leader is really looking to achieve transformationally over time.
Aaron, you look like you wanted to just quickly jump in there.
I think it's a great point. I think if you hold to that value around care and you apply it to that relationship, which is the critical relationship for us, if you do it well, it lasts. We've got organizations where we've stayed through changes of CPO because the one that's outgoing recommends us so strongly, but then also picks us up at their next location because they really are passionate around what we're doing. And I know what Kathy's trying to hint towards here, which is she holds the record for the longest client engagement between the two of us. It's okay. It's fine. It's all right. I get it.
I think this is another example, right, of why we're quite competitive between us, as you know, Chris. And I think that stood us in good stead as well, right, Aaron, over the time.
It has. No, so definitely. And I love that point about the relationship, because at the end of the day, no matter how a project is going, how the deliverable is going, the work that we're doing, you can always solve it if you have that relationship. You can have that dialogue. And that's why it's just so important.
I'm going to go for another sort of 5 minutes max, I think.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you a question around, as you pointed out, Cathy, it's not all just complete, and Aaron did as well, it's not all completely linear, plain sailing. We started with the two of us, and 10 years later, we've got 100 of us, and blah, 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 blah. So can you kind of reflect on a period perhaps when it's been really, really tough and what we've kind of learned from it? And then the same question for you, Aaron, if that's all right. But Cathy, if you want to kick us off.
I think for me personally, the period where you challenge yourself of what it really means to be a leader of a business kicked in was over COVID. And that feels a long time ago now. It was over 4 years ago, right, when COVID reared its head. March 2020, was it? I'm not going to have to get my... Yes. And it does feel like a lifetime ago, but it was such a stark, immediate moment where everything stopped, basically. And it... To me, that was where culture comes to the fore, right, in terms of how you operate in that time. And, I remember nights you go to bed and you're worrying about whether you can pay people that month, right? It's sort of that you're at that level of how do we get through this in a way that minimizes the impact on our people and means that we all come out of this better and stronger. Lots and lots of businesses went through exactly that. But I guess while it was incredibly tough, it was also a time when I think we corralled together, right, as a business. And I remember it kicked off so many good outcomes into how we operate. It kicked off our weekly all hands. Let's all get together at least once a week where we just talk about stuff, right? It doesn't have to be work. It's just let's connect more and let's talk more and let's listen more and be there for each other more and understand that there's ultimately more important things in the world than work, right? So it was a time when I think culture and values are tested, and I'm hoping we came through that reasonably well. But at the same time, it embeds real meaning to values and behaviours, I think. So to me, that was our toughest moment. But look where we are, right? We came through that. We absolutely came through it and went through significant growth off the back of it. Our team, I think, is stronger as a result, and we're in a better place as a result. But it was tough at the time.
Aaron? I can't add too much more to that, because I think, when you think about the timeline, we'd crossed over COVID. So it's got to be the toughest moment for us, as you say, for people, but also handling our clients through that process, because, they were having an incredibly tough time as well. And we led into a lot of that, and we gave a lot of good advice, I think, for them and tried to help them through that session. That was a really difficult time for them and their people as well. Adversity is the mother of all invention, I think they say. And I'm with Cathy, when you're in those difficult moments, when talent steps up, it's when you figure out what's really important and you can cut through things and you just take a step change. I guess for me, the thing for us as an organization, and I think a lot of organizations learn through these, is that you've got one of two options. You can hunker down and hide in the cave, or you can lean through it. I'm trying to avoid saying lean into it, because I know Cathy hates that phrase, but or you take advantage of it, right? And I think one of the reasons why we've come out so strongly post-COVID is we had the opportunity to say and use that time to figure out how we wanted to position ourselves for what we felt was going to be in the market. And luckily that happened, and that allowed us to move the organization forward. And I think that's one of the things that you've got to learn. I do also remember moments in years 2 and 3 where, to Cathy's point, I used to call it scraping the reef, where basically the money in the bank had run out and we were waiting for that one client to pay us to be able to pay everybody. And it was literally down to the hours at sometimes. And at those moments, you're like, what have I done? Why am I here? What's going on? And then you'd phone your friends and they'd be like, it's all right, don't worry, it'll be okay. And then you get through it, right? That sort of hold your nerve sometimes is really important. I think that's one of the big lessons learned through those adversity moments.
Yeah, I really, really love that. We are just on time at the moment. So I just wanted to thank you actually both, because it's been really, really interesting kind of getting your insights, getting some thoughts. Hopefully listeners, you found it interesting as well. Just as we wrap up, is there any kind of final thing that you'd like to bring up? I'll start with you, Cathy, and then finish off with Aaron before we depart for this particular episode.
Well, I guess is to say that 10 years is a milestone, right? It's a huge milestone. I've had lots of milestones along the way. This double-digit one feels pretty big. I'm looking forward to celebrating with the team to sort of reflect on the successes. But I'm also really looking forward about what comes next. We're an ambitious business. We've got a brilliant team around us, amazing skills and talents, fantastic clients, and lots of opportunities ahead. So it is a moment to reflect back and think about what we've done, but actually I'm most excited about what's to come. And the next few years, I think, are going to be particularly exciting, at least.
Lovely. Aaron?
I couldn't have said that better, so I'm not going to try. The only other thing I think that strikes me after 10 years is we have a legacy of LACE alumni in the market who have worked with us, who've grown up with us, who've started their careers and moved into other things. And I just often think and find myself dwelling on, where are they? What are they doing? And do they reflect on their time with us well? Which I think they do. So I think that creation of that network that we've generated through the business is something that I'm very proud of and keen to continue to see grow over time as well. So
I really, really love that. And that alumni piece, I think, is really important, actually, because it's impacting the way you impact people's lives. As Cathy, as you said, like, work is one part of everyone's life, but it's not everything. So actually the relationships that you make along the way as well are really, really important. Thank you very much, both of you, for lending me some of your time and some of your thoughts today. It's been really, really good. Aaron, thank you.
Thank you very much. Been a pleasure.
And Cathy, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Of course, if you want to get access to any of our podcasts, hopefully you've enjoyed listening to this one. We are celebrating all this week. November the 14th, I think, was when we officially came into being. So we are celebrating all this week a variety of different activities that we're doing. But from myself, from Aaron, from Cathy, thank you very much for listening. And hopefully we'll catch you next time on the HR on the Offensive podcast. Bye-bye.